Every small town has that one person, the quiet one. The one who never shares much but always seems to be building something no one else understands. People gossip. They make guesses. But what if that quiet person wasn't hiding weakness, but strength? What if silence was their secret weapon? This is the story of Elijah Cole. And it begins with a locked door no one was allowed to open, not even his closest friends. Part 1. The door you don't open yet. Elijah Cole lived on the edge of Lincoln Ridge, a quiet place where neighbors waved from porches, and folks told each other everything. But Elijah was different. He was friendly, sure, but distant. People liked him, but they didn't know him. His house had one strange thing about it. One room, always locked. He never talked about it. Never explained. Even his best friend Carter, who'd known him since they were 10, had never stepped inside. "Come on, man," Carter had said one evening, sipping sweet tea on the porch. "What's in there? A top-secret lab? A stash of gold? Are you building a rocket?" Elijah only smiled. "That room's not ready to be seen yet." Carter laughed, but Elijah's eyes held something serious. Something that said, "There's more here than you know." What no one realized was this: that room wasn't a mystery. It was a metaphor. For the last 2 years, Elijah had been working on a vision, a dream so big it scared him. He had grown up poor, raised by a single mother who worked double shifts and still smiled at bedtime. He knew struggle. But he also knew something more: ambition. He had an idea for a business. Not just any business. Something that could change lives. Something rooted in solving real problems. He'd been learning, experimenting, studying quietly while others partied or posted their every move online. He didn't talk about it. Not because he was ashamed, but because he had learned something powerful: words are seeds. And seeds thrown into the wrong soil never grow. One evening, after church, a few neighbors gathered in Elijah's yard. Talk turned to dreams, and Carter brought it up again. "You ever gonna tell us what you're working on?" Another neighbor, Lisa, chimed in. "Yeah, we're dying of curiosity." Elijah chuckled. "Some things grow best in silence." They all laughed. But inside, Elijah meant every word. He had learned, through hard experience, that sharing too early invites opinions that kill momentum. Not everyone is cruel, but not everyone is qualified to speak into your dream. Even well-meaning friends can place doubt where there once was fire. He remembered when he was 18, and he told a teacher about wanting to start a business. The man had smiled kindly and said, "Elijah, maybe shoot for something more realistic." That sentence had haunted him for a year. It wasn't cruel. It was just small. That's when Elijah made a promise to himself. Protect the vision until it's strong enough to stand on its own. Napoleon Hill once wrote, "Tell the world what you intend to do, but first, show it." Elijah took that to heart. The locked door in his house. It wasn't just a room. It was his workshop, his sanctuary, his dream incubator. Inside were plans, notebooks, prototypes, vision boards, and quotes taped to the wall. Above all else was one phrase, written in bold red ink: "Silence is strength. Progress is the proof." Each morning, Elijah woke before sunrise. He brewed his coffee, lit a candle in that sacred room, and worked quietly. No noise. No announcements. Just steady action. He understood a truth many miss: energy is your currency. And if you spend it explaining yourself to people who don't see your vision, you go broke before you even begin. He kept his energy close. No posts. No speeches. No big news coming soon. Updates. Just discipline. Just focus. And that made all the difference. But things weren't easy. There were days when doubt crept in. Days when he felt invisible. People assumed he was doing nothing. Some called him lazy behind his back. Others thought he had no direction. That's when the temptation to explain came. But he remembered the lesson again: when you carry a flame, you don't walk it through the wind. He stayed silent. Let them think what they wanted. One night, Carter stopped by again. "Seriously, man," he said. "Why all the secrecy?" Elijah looked up from his porch swing and said, "Because some things grow better underground. You don't dig up a seed just to check if it's working." Carter shook his head, laughing. "You and your metaphors." But inside, Elijah knew his silence wasn't secrecy. It was respect for the process, for his dream, and for his future self. That winter, Elijah's prototype finally worked. He didn't say a word, just kept going. He found a small investor, quietly launched a website, set up a system. Momentum started building. By spring, orders rolled in. The business grew. Still no fanfare. Still no announcement. Then one day, Carter showed up and saw a delivery truck in Elijah's driveway. A big one. With Elijah's company logo painted across the side. Carter blinked. "When did this happen?" Elijah smiled. "While nobody was watching." End of part 1. To be continued. Call to action. If Elijah's story moved something in you, if you've got a quiet dream, a locked room, or a fire you're protecting, share this with someone who needs to hear it. And don't forget to subscribe, comment, and come back for part 2. Your silence holds power. Use it well. Would you like me to begin writing part 2 next? Title: The Secret Room, a story about the power of silence series, Whispers of Greatness, inspired by Napoleon Hill *, Part 2, The Fire You Don't Explain. Hook. They say a true friend will cheer you on no matter what. But what happens when a friend's voice becomes the seed of your doubt? What if someone you trust doesn't understand your dream, and worse, makes you question it? This is the story of Elijah Cole's second test, not from the outside world, but from the inside circle, and this time, it wasn't about protecting his idea from strangers. It was about protecting it from love dressed as concern. Part 2, The Fire You Don't Explain. It was a Tuesday evening when Elijah's mother, Ruth, stopped by unexpectedly. She brought him a peach cobbler, still warm, wrapped in a towel. Elijah smiled. She was the one person who could break his focus midweek. They sat at the kitchen table. The room smelled of cinnamon and old memories. Ruth poured sweet tea while Elijah cut generous slices of cobbler. She looked around. "You always keep it so quiet in here," she said. Elijah nodded. "Quiet is where the work happens." She smiled softly. "You sound like your granddad." He chuckled. "I'll take that as a compliment." Then she glanced toward the hallway, the one that led to the room. Her tone shifted. "Elijah," she began gently, "I know you're working hard on whatever's behind that door. But I worry. You've been at this for a long time. No one knows what it is. No job updates. No school. No real income. Just ideas." He stayed quiet. "I'm your mother," she said, touching his hand. "And maybe I'm wrong. But sometimes, keeping everything so secret, it can isolate you. Maybe it's time to talk to someone. Show what you're doing. Let someone give you feedback. Maybe they could help." Elijah looked at her, his rock, his anchor. The woman who had cleaned houses just to keep his shoes dry in the winter. She wasn't criticizing him. She was loving him in the only way she knew how. But that love, however gentle, held the power to chip away at his clarity. Later that night, Elijah sat alone in the locked room. The shelves lined with notebooks. His whiteboard was filled with diagrams. But for the first time in months, he couldn't focus. His mother's voice echoed in his mind. "No one knows what it is. Let someone give you feedback. Maybe they could help." He knew her heart was pure. But he also knew this truth. Not every voice deserves access to your process, no matter how loving. Because sometimes love doesn't understand ambition. Sometimes care sounds like doubt. And sometimes the closest people to you can become accidental saboteurs, not because they want to stop you, but because they've never walked where you're going. He stared at the wall for a long time. Then he uncapped a marker and wrote across the top of the board, "Guard the flame. Even from good intentions." The next day, Elijah went for a run to clear his head. He passed the old train station, the barber shop, the diner where he and Carter used to sit and talk about wild futures. But that morning, he thought about something deeper. A conversation he once had with a mentor online. an old entrepreneur who had built something massive from nothing. Protect your dream like a fire in the rain, the mentor had said. It doesn't need a crowd. It needs a cover. Elijah now understood that more than ever. The problem wasn't just external critics or internet trolls. It was the subtle voices, the soft suggestions, the concerned tones, the people who meant well. Their words didn't sound harsh. But they carried weight. Because of love. Because of history. Because they mattered. And that's what made it dangerous. That week, Elijah made a new rule that he would no longer explain himself. Not out of arrogance, but out of discipline. That he would no longer soften his steps to make others comfortable with his speed. That he would protect his energy like water in a desert. That meant saying less. That meant smiling through questions. That meant resisting the urge to narrate his progress just to feel understood. Because clarity doesn't come from consensus. It comes from commitment. Carter called again that weekend. Let's grab lunch, he said. We haven't caught up in a while. Elijah agreed. They sat at the corner booth in Lou's diner. Chicken sandwiches and iced teas between them. You still working on that thing? Carter asked. Yeah, Elijah said. Every day. Carter leaned forward. Look, man, I've been thinking. Maybe I can help. Give you some input? I've got free time now. Elijah smiled. Appreciate that. But I'm good. Carter looked confused. So you're really not gonna tell me what it is? Elijah shook his head. Not yet. There was a long pause. Okay, Carter said. I don't get it. But I trust you. And that was enough. That night, Elijah returned home and unlocked the door to the room. He didn't feel the need to prove anything anymore. He wasn't angry. He wasn't defensive. He was clear. And in that clarity, he made the biggest breakthrough of the project. It wasn't flashy, but it was real. He jotted it down, adjusted a design, tested a new model, and it worked. Because he had preserved his energy. Because he hadn't scattered his fire trying to light torches for others who couldn't carry them. End of part 2 to be continued. Call to action. If you've ever felt misunderstood in your journey, if someone you love made you question your path, let Elijah's story be your reminder. You don't need to explain your fire to those who can't feel its warmth. Guard your flame. Come back for part 3 to see how Elijah's silent grind starts turning into undeniable momentum. Don't forget to subscribe, comment, and share this with someone protecting a dream of their own. Would you like me to continue with part 3 now? Here's part 3 of your motivational series, rewritten in your established style, simple, direct, powerful, and aligned with the tone of Napoleon Hill's legacy. Title: The Shift That Cost Everything Series, Whispers of Greatness, inspired by Napoleon Hill * Part 3, Focus, Silence, and the Quiet Strength That Builds Destiny. Hook. Have you ever shifted your direction, not because it felt true, but because someone else said it would be safer, smarter, or more realistic? You didn't turn completely, just a slight change, a small compromise. But over time, that 1 degree off course led you far from the life you were meant to live. This is how purpose is often lost, not in one big moment of failure, but in tiny steps away from your truth. This is part 3 of Elijah Cole's journey. And this time, it's not about external pressure, it's about the inner erosion that happens when clarity is replaced with caution. The shift that cost everything. Imagine sailing toward a bright shore, one you've dreamed of your entire life. Then someone beside you, someone you trust, points out the clouds. Adjust just a little, they say. Play it safe. And so you do, you change course. Just a touch. But when land appears, it's not the place you imagined. You arrived. But not where you were meant to be. This is how it happens. Not all at once, not with force, but slowly. Gently. Quietly. That was the week Elijah almost gave it all up. He didn't tell anyone, of course. From the outside, everything looked the same. But inside, doubt had slipped in. It didn't come from an enemy. It came from a friend. From love. From concern. From someone who said, maybe try something more stable. And for a moment, Elijah believed it. Just for a moment. He closed his notebook, shut down his plans, considered updating his resume. But late one night, he sat alone in the silent room, the one where everything began, and asked himself a hard question. Am I changing direction because it feels right, or because someone else is afraid? The truth hit him hard. He was shrinking, not because he had failed, but because someone else couldn't see what he saw, and in that moment, he made a decision. Never again. Guarding purpose without hostility. Elijah realized something powerful that night. You don't protect your dream with anger. You protect it with clarity. When you know exactly what you're building, you no longer confuse concern for wisdom. You no longer take advice from people who haven't walked your road. He wrote 3 questions on his wall. Who supports my highest self? Who encourages my boldest steps? Who claps when I grow, even if I grow beyond them? And then, just as importantly, who resists my rise, gently, quietly, but consistently? Who hides doubt behind care? Who urges me to stay small, just so they can stay comfortable? The answers were clear and painful, but necessary. Focus is fire. Elijah learned something else. Focus is not time. It's direction. Everyone has 24 hours. But not everyone points those hours toward a single purpose. He remembered what it felt like to try and carry water in a woven basket. That's what divided focus is like: effort without outcome, motion without meaning. Focus is the choice to guard your energy from leaks. It's saying no when yes would make others happy. It's choosing to build instead of explain. It's action, not announcement. Elijah began every day with one word in mind: depth. Not more tasks, not more noise, just more depth. Let the silence shape you. Moving in silence isn't weakness, it's wisdom. When Elijah stopped sharing his every step, he discovered something sacred. He didn't need applause to keep going. He didn't need feedback to feel worthy. He just needed his why. In silence, he met the real version of himself, the one who built without recognition, the one who stayed consistent without credit, the one who forged strength in private, like a blacksmith at the forge, swinging the hammer, shaping the steel, unseen but unstoppable. Silence removed the performance. What remained was purpose. Act. Reflect. Grow. One night, Elijah added 3 questions to his nightly routine. 1. What did I do today? 2. What did I learn from it? 3. What will I do differently tomorrow? No judgment. And no shame, just clarity. This simple rhythm became his fuel. Because action without reflection is noise, and reflection without action is delay. But together they form the cycle of transformation. Final thought. Are you waiting for someone to approve your path before you commit to it? Are you holding back your power until the crowd claps? You don't need validation to build. You don't need a spotlight to start. You don't need anyone to understand your direction for it to be right. Act. Reflect. Grow. Repeat. Let others chase noise. You chase purpose. Let others scatter their focus. You go deep. Because in the end, it is not speed or applause that builds greatness. It is quiet, deliberate, focused progress. And those who stay building in silence, they arrive with strength that cannot be shaken. To be continued. Call to action. If this spoke to something deep inside you, share it. But more importantly, live it. Ask yourself those 3 questions tonight. Protect your dream. Hold your focus. Build in silence. And come back for part 4. Where Elijah's invisible work begins to create visible results. Would you like help outlining part 4, or would you like to draft it yourself first? Title: When the World Can't See You Series, Whispers of Greatness, inspired by Napoleon Hill. Part 4, Building the Unseen Until It Becomes Unstoppable. Hook. What if no one noticed? What if you worked, improved, stayed consistent, and still, the world stayed silent? Would you keep going? Or would you slow down because no one was watching? This is where most people quit, not because they don't have talent, but because they expect progress to come with applause. But Elijah, he was building something far more powerful than attention. He was building roots. The most dangerous moment in growth. There's a moment between effort and reward, between planting and harvest. It's quiet. It's long, and it feels like nothing is happening. This is where most give up. they tell themselves. I should have seen results by now. This must not be working. Maybe I was wrong. But what they don't realize is, growth is invisible before it becomes undeniable. Elijah was now deep in that invisible phase. He showed up daily, studied, created, failed, adjusted, but still no calls, no praise, no proof that his dream was working. His heart whispered, keep going. But doubt, it shouted. Why most quick just before the shift Elijah remembered something his grandfather told him. The darkest part of the night comes right before dawn. He wrote it on a slip of paper and taped it to his mirror. Each day he read it. Each day he felt like quitting. And each day he didn't doubt. That's the difference. The ones who win don't always feel strong. They just keep showing up, even when they feel weak. Most people don't fail. They stop. Elijah didn't stop. The power of repetition. Elijah studied the greats. One thing became clear. They all practiced in private. Jordan shot thousands of baskets with no cameras. Mozart composed in silence long before the concerts. Edison failed more than 1,000 times before the light bulb. And yet, we only remember the moment they made it. What if Elijah's moment was still coming? Would he prepare for it, or wait for it? He made a decision. I will be ready, even if no one claps, even if no one sees, even if I have to do it 1,000 times. Your job is not to be seen, it's to be ready. The world will notice you, after you're undeniable. But that doesn't happen overnight. It happens when you choose repetition over recognition, discipline over dopamine, preparation over performance. Elijah created a simple rule. 3 focused hours, every single day. No matter what. Some days he felt on fire. Some days he doubted every word. But he still did the work, and something strange began to happen. The slow signs of shift at first, it was small. A stranger messaged him. Your post helped me today. A friend he hadn't heard from in years said, I've been following quietly. Keep going. A mentor shared his ideas in a room Elijah had never even entered. None of this was planned. None of it was flashy. But it was real, and real momentum is better than loud noise. Because noise fades, but momentum compounds. What no one tells you about breakthroughs look sudden. But they're not. They're the result of silent effort, day after day, that finally becomes too loud to ignore. Elijah wasn't lucky. He was consistent. He wasn't discovered. He was prepared. He wasn't overnight. He was relentless. Final thought, right now, someone reading this is in their invisible phase. You've been working. You've been focused. You've been consistent. And the world? It's been quiet. Keep going. Your job is not to be noticed. Your job is to become unstoppable. Because when your roots are deep, no storm can shake you. Keep practicing. Keep sharpening. Keep preparing. When your time comes, and it will, you'll be ready. To be continued. Call to action. If this lit a fire in you, don't scroll away. Write one action you'll take today to become undeniable. Then share this with someone else who's in their quiet season. Tell them they're not alone. And come back for part 5, where Elijah's preparation meets opportunity, and silence turns to impact. Would you like a suggested outline for part 5, or should I send the full part in the same style? Here is part 5 of your 6-part motivational story, written in simple and powerful language for an American audience, in the style of Napoleon Hill. Title: When Preparation Meets Its Moment Series, Whispers of Greatness. Inspired by Napoleon Hill * Part 5. The door only opens for the ready hook. One message. That's all it took to change the direction of Elijah's life. It wasn't from a celebrity. Not from a billionaire. Not from someone with a blue check. It was from a man named Harold Reeves. An old friend of Elijah's late grandfather. A retired business owner. And someone who had been quietly watching Elijah's journey. Come meet me, the message said. I've been hearing about you. I have something you might want to see. That message didn't appear by accident. It appeared because Elijah had prepared for it. Preparation is the signal that attracts opportunity. You don't get lucky. You get ready. So when the door cracks open, you don't hesitate. That's what Elijah had done for months. Quiet work. Unseen hours. No guarantee of reward. But the right people? They notice more than you think. Harold Reeves had been watching. Not every day. Not every detail. But just enough to know Elijah had something the world needed. Not talent alone. But character. That's what opens doors. Character gets built in the fire. When Elijah showed up to the meeting, Harold asked just one question. What do you want? Not. What have you done? Not. Who do you know? Not. What's your resume? Just. What do you want? Elijah could have fumbled. But he didn't. Because he'd already answered that question 100 times in the quiet. I want to build something that helps people see themselves differently. I want to show what's possible. And I want to do it with integrity. Harold smiled. You're exactly who I thought you were. Doors open for the prepared, not the popular. Harold didn't need someone flashy. He didn't want another smooth talker. He wanted someone real. Someone who didn't quit when it was hard. Someone who would keep showing up when no one clapped. So, he handed Elijah an envelope. Inside were two things. 1. A letter of recommendation with Harold's personal endorsement. 2. A check, with a note that said, "This isn't a handout. This is fuel. Use it wisely. Go build your vision." That moment didn't happen because Elijah shouted the loudest. It happened because he was ready when the right person listened. The world doesn't reward wanting. It rewards readiness. Everyone says they want success. But the real question is, would you be ready if it showed up tomorrow? Most people hope. Elijah prepared. Most people wait. Elijah worked. Most people dream. Elijah did the daily work no one saw. That's why the opportunity didn't scare him. He wasn't caught off guard. He had the plan. He had the discipline. He had the clarity. Because he built the foundation before the opportunity arrived. The shift from dreamer to builder. That day, Elijah stopped calling himself a dreamer. He became a builder. He used the funds to launch a program that helped others develop clarity and discipline. He didn't just talk about belief. He taught people how to build it. And people listened, not because he was the loudest, but because he was the most consistent. His story wasn't built in the spotlight. It was built in silence. Why most people miss their moment? It's not because the door never opens. It's because they're not ready when it does. They think opportunity will wait. It won't. They think clarity will arrive later. It won't. They think they need more time. They don't. They need more action. That's the truth no one likes to say. But Elijah lived it. And now, he was proof of it. Final thought, you never know who's watching. You never know what opportunity is forming behind closed doors. But here's what you do know. If you prepare today, you won't panic tomorrow. So stay ready. Stay clear. Stay consistent. Because when your moment shows up, you won't need to scramble. You'll already be in motion. To be continued, call to action. If this sparks something in you, take one small step today that your future self will thank you for. Then send this story to someone who needs to remember. The best way to predict your breakthrough is to prepare for it. Don't forget to like, share, and subscribe for part 6, the final chapter of Elijah's journey. Would you like me to send part 6, final, now? Here is part 6, final part, of your motivational story series, written in simple and powerful English for an American audience, in the style of Napoleon Hill. Title, Built to Last Series, Whispers of Greatness, inspired by Napoleon Hill. Part 6. The Legacy of the Quiet Climb. Hook. 1 year later, Elijah stood on the stage of a packed auditorium, not to perform, not to impress, but to speak. To tell his story. To remind others that greatness doesn't begin with applause, it begins in silence. And what he said in that moment? It wasn't a quote. It wasn't a cliche. It was a truth forged in long nights and quiet mornings. You don't rise to the level of your dreams, you rise to the level of your preparation. The world had finally caught up to his effort. Elijah's program had grown, from a quiet side project, to a thriving movement helping people reclaim their focus, discipline, and belief. He didn't take shortcuts. He didn't chase trends. He built brick by brick. Each part of the journey, every silent sacrifice, every doubt, every late night, had led him here, not to a finish line, but to a new beginning. Success didn't make him different. It revealed who he was all along. The spotlight didn't change Elijah, because it wasn't fame he was after. It was impact. And when you build from your core values, you don't have to perform. You just show up as you are. He told the audience the truth. I didn't get here because of luck. I got here because I made one clear promise to myself. I will not betray the vision I've been given. I will guard it. I will honor it. And I will build it, even if nobody claps. What you build in silence echoes forever. The applause that night wasn't just for Elijah. It was for every version of him who didn't give up. The Elijah who woke up early when no one cared. The Elijah who turned down shortcuts. The Elijah who protected his energy and guarded his dream. And most of all, it was for the Elijah who believed even when there was no proof yet. You can't fake the climb. People tried to cheat the journey. To copy what they see online. To skip the process and claim the prize. But Elijah had learned a law that never breaks. If you skip the climb, you forfeit the view. You can't fake patience. You can't fake resilience. You can't fake preparation. You have to earn them. And once you do, no one can ever take them away from you. Your discipline is your legacy. Elijah closed his speech with this. Your habits outlive your hype. Your discipline outlasts your distractions. And your character outshines your talent. Then he paused, looked out at the crowd, and said, So don't chase the finish line, chase who you're becoming. Because results fade. But who you become, that's forever. Final thought. Your dream doesn't need more noise. It needs more consistency. It doesn't need validation. It needs discipline. And it doesn't need to be explained to everyone. It just needs you to believe in it enough to build it. So if you're still in your quiet season, good. Because that's where the strongest stories begin. Final line. Your moment will come. And when it does, you won't rise because you're lucky. You'll rise because you prepared for it every single day. This is the legacy of the quiet climb. It doesn't end with applause, it begins with purpose. Series complete. If Elijah's story moved you, don't just be inspired, act. Protect your vision, honor your silence, and build every single day like your future depends on it. Because it does. Like, share, and comment if this series reminded you of your power. And subscribe to stay connected to more stories that speak to the greatness within you.